Our next guest co-founded one of the largest environmental organizations in the world, but he says Greenpeace's tactics and membership became too radical for its own good. Patrick Moore is the author of Confessions of a Greenpeace Dropout. He left the organization, but is still fighting for environmental causes. Patrick, welcome to the show. It's good to have you with us, sir.
Good morning, Stuart. Thanks for having me on.
Summarize, please. Why did you leave the organization you co-founded?
Well, you know, we did a lot of good work in the early years of the environmental movement, stop the bombs, save the whales, reduce toxic waste into the air and water. But around the mid-'80s, after 15 years in the leadership of Greenpeace, I found myself one of 5 international directors, the only one with any formal science education. Basically, Greenpeace was hijacked by political and social activists at the time who began adopting extremist positions on a number of issues. I saw the writing on the wall, especially when they decided to ban chlorine worldwide, which happens to be the most important element for human health and medicine. I had to leave because they were adopting positions I could not justify in science. And since then, they have adopted many positions which I believe in some cases are the opposite to what they should be for truly being environmentally correct.
If you looked across the whole spectrum of the environmental movement, would you say that it is still primarily anti-capitalist as opposed to pro-pure environment?
Yes, I believe it is. The movement was captured by the left. I believe environmentalism should be central and politically neutral and bipartisan, that environmentalism should borrow the best ideas from market-based approaches and from regulatory approaches and balance the situation that way. Whereas many of the positions that are being taken, for example, against genetically modified crops, basically they're trying to attack Monsanto and other multinationals here. It's more about globalization and anti-capitalism than it is about science or ecology. 500,000 kids go blind every year in the rice-eating countries because of vitamin A deficiency. Golden rice, which Ingo Potricus invented 12 years ago, could cure that overnight, and yet the activists have prevented it from being planted in Asia and Africa.
Bring us up to speed, if you would, to the present moment, because the key environmental debate seems to me to be around global warming. Where do you stand on global warming? Is it happening? And if it is happening, what would you, a former member of Greenpeace, do about it?
Global warming has been happening since about 1800, when the Little Ice Age came to an end and the Thames River in England stopped freezing over on a regular basis. This is obviously a natural phenomenon. The climate has been changing throughout the millennia and has generally been warmer than it is today for the last 500 million years. We are actually in an ice age now, one of only 6 or so major ice ages that have occurred during the history of the Earth. And we are in an interglacial period now, but take note that there are large sheets of ice on both poles, something that was not there for the previous 100 million years before this last 2 million year Pleistocene ice age. So I personally believe that a little bit of warming would be good for the planet by and large. It might not help ski hill operators. There's always winners and losers, but I believe there will be more winners if it warms, and certainly we should be very concerned if it cools, because in a warmer world we can produce more food. In a cooler world we will be able to only be able to produce less food, and that would be a real problem for a population that is still growing. We do not have any scientific proof that we are the cause of the global warming that has occurred over the last 200 years. And indeed, the global warming that occurred since the Ice Age, Pleistocene Ice Age glaciation came to an end 10,000 years ago. It's been warming since then. We certainly didn't cause that. So I just do not believe that we have the proof of this, and the alarmism is driving us through scare tactics to adopt energy policies that are going to create a huge amount of energy poverty among the poor people in our society. It's not good for people, and it's not good for the environment.
Patrick, I've got to jump in, because I'm sitting with 3 of my colleagues who are listening to what you've got to say, and we are all astonished. We've not heard this from someone who is a well-known environmentalist. We simply have not heard this. My question is, I'll get to Chris. Chris has got a question too, but a real fast one is, what proportion of the old line environmentalist people like yourself, what proportion are with you these days?
There are a number of independent environmentalists like myself. Stuart Varney from California is a good example. Bruno Combi in France, the head of environmentalists for nuclear energy. There are many others. James Lovelock, for example, is a strong supporter of nuclear power as well. It's a great irony that environmentalists are against nuclear energy when it's the only technology that can really replace fossil fuels. But if people want to read what I've written on many other subjects as well, and the whole history of my involvement with the environmental movement, Confessions of a Greenpeace Dropout, subtitled The Making of a Sensible Environmentalist, can be found at sensibleenvironmentalist.com or at Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. So it's easy to find. Just Google Confessions of a Greenpeace Dropout and you will find it.
Patrick, my question is this. I mean, I think, yes, there are a lot of people that say, or there are some people that try and sound the alarm bells. Hey, the Himalayas are melting away. The entire mountain range is going to be gone by 2025 and whatnot, and freaking people out. We are belching a lot of carbon in ridiculous amounts in terms of where we were 100 years ago into the atmosphere. We do have a significant reliance on fossil fuels. We still have to get a plan in place, whether it's for the next 100 years, 200 years, whatever the case may be. Don't you agree with that? I mean, we have to find somewhere where we have a plan in place. We can't just say it's ridiculous, let's forget about it.
I absolutely agree we need a plan in place, and I'm totally in favor of reducing dependence on fossil fuels for a number of reasons. Many people are concerned about the climate change issue. That's fine. But also there's the air pollution issue. Nothing we do causes more air pollution and damage to public health and the environment than burning fossil fuels. Conservation. We're burning 300 million years worth of fossil fuels in a few centuries. Maybe some people in future generations would like to have some of this very precious resource as well. So where we can do it cost effectively, such as replacing coal with nuclear energy, that's what we should be doing. Replacing internal combustion engines with batteries, if they are able to make batteries that are cost effective. That's still in a fairly advanced R&D stage as far as I'm concerned. But geothermal heat pumps, for example, could replace every furnace and hot water heater that is using gas and oil in the world. Every single one. Every home can have a geothermal heat pump in it and reduce the cost of your energy bill while at the same time eliminating fossil fuels from your house.
If there's no evidence, what's the agenda then? Why do this to us? Why scare us into Armageddon? What are the Greenies, what's on their agenda, quite frankly?
Well, actually, it's a powerful convergence of interests, not just environmentalists, but also scientists seeking grant money, media seeking headlines, universities seeking huge grants from major institutions, foundations, environmental groups, politicians wanting to make it look like they're saving the future generations, and all of these people have converged on this issue. And even the scientific community has become politicized on the subject of climate change. But there are many thousands of scientists, particularly in the earth science like geology, geophysics, astrophysics, etc., and geography, who are not convinced that we have proof of climate change. As a matter of fact, it's all based on computer models and prediction. And one of the things my book does very clearly is help people separate historical fact from predictions of the future. We do not actually have a crystal ball. It is a mythical object.
We're going to pick up the book, but what I want to ask is, you're talking about individuals, and where is there a unified voice? Because right now, millions of people are dying in this world from diseases that, because you pointed out where modified crops could help people, but also malaria as a scourge throughout the world, in part because the left has stopped third world nations from getting this. How come there's no organization pointing this out and saying this? And if there's not, why don't you help form one?
There are a number of organizations working on different aspects on different fronts, but it's true there is no holistic approach to this which connects all the dots among agriculture and energy and climate change and forestry and biodiversity, fisheries and aquaculture. There's 7 billion people nearly now who need food, energy and material from the Earth's environment every day to survive. Sustainability is about reducing the impact of obtaining those resources and energy from the Earth. And that's what this book is about, is helping people understand a rational, science-based approach rather than a sensationalist, scare tactic approach to the future.
Patrick Moore, co-founder of Greenpeace, who left Greenpeace, author of Confessions of a Greenpeace Dropout. That was terrific, and we thank you very much for joining us today, Patrick Moore. I hope you can come back and tell us more about this, because it's very interesting. Thank you, Patrick.
Anytime.
Yes.